I was asked to explain to a stranger, I suffer from MS, which is a debilitating neurological conditions which can and often does result in paralysis of different limbs, legs, arms, sometimes affects speech. I think the most important, the most significant message, I've said it before, but to be aware of the psychological bombshell which an illness like MS is in terms of people no longer being able to work, which affected me very badly, and the social ledger implications of having to use a wheelchair, the difficulties of access to various things like transport, homes, houses, even aeroplanes as well. It really is a very limiting reality.
Is it better some days than others? Or
well,
do you have good days?
it comes and goes because I get big pains in my arms and my legs, in my fingers. It's like when I hold knife and fork, I can't hold the knife and fork. It feels like so cold to hold that knife, not cutlery, you know. And I was saying to the doctors, what is there, if they could do about this feeling with my hands, you know, because I can't feel anything, I can't even tread my buttons on, you know, I can't do nothing like this for myself no more, you know. And that gets me really low. And you have to forgive my speech. You know, I was a very talkative person, but now I used to cover my mouth because my talking, there's no coordination with my speech, you know. And even when I'm trying to say something, my hand is all shaking, and when I'm annoyed with somebody, I shake, you know. I don't know why I do, because I can't say what I really want to say within, you know, because, you know, because it's a brain thing, and I forget a lot of things. That's another thing of the MS, you forget things so easy. But what I do at home, I write everything down, select my appointments, and I write it all down so I can see when I get around, you know, around the flat. Well, the whole frame is heavy, you know, and the wheels, the one I've got here now, it is kind of flat tires, you know, so it does. I feel every crack in the pavement, and I can count them all, you know. But if it was a tire one, which I can either let down a little bit so you can suppress the bumps in the road. That I told them that these tires that I've got, they feel every crack in the pavement.
With your care worker, what do you think they could do better to make your life easier?
Well, with my care worker this time, she's fantastic, you know. She does everything for me, you know. She makes my bed, she cooks, as I say, and she takes me shopping so I can buy food and all that. And well, she's a fantastic lady, you know. And when she tells me about her, the way she looks after people, is that I explain to her that I'm not going to be able to do that, but you know, I can do this, if you understand what I'm saying, you know? And I would listen to what she has to say, and I say, well, I can do that, and I will be able to. Because before, I was always shy to get onto the bus to go anywhere, you know. I was like a hermit at home, you know, not doing nothing, you know.
So it's kind of opened everything up?
Yes, yeah, and when I open up everything like that, she understands where I'm coming from. Oh, actually, there was a lot of reading for her to know about my MS, but I was explaining to her that I would make it easy for her and help her if she wants to know anything, because, you know, I would always help her, you know, we feed back to each other, you know, so she can learn something and I can learn something from her, you know. Yeah.
What you can do this morning isn't necessarily what you can do in the evening.
Okay, so
You
it can
don't.
change even over the
Oh
day.
yeah, it can change. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the sea, you know, it's unpredictable. That's the worst thing, you know.
And then from day to day, does it change?
Oh
as
yeah,
well, or
oh
it's
yeah. I mean, I went to go and see a film. It didn't start until 29. The film was 2 hours. I knew by the time I get home, it would be midnight if I was in bed. That means I would feel a bit tired the next day. That means that being tired would mean that my walking would be worse. My walking would be worse. There's a good chance my hands might get pins and needles in my hands because I was tired. My walking would be really bad. I would feel tired and I would doubtlessly go to sleep probably sometime during the day. You know, walking bad might be very stiff and it'd be difficult for you to get around. And I know that I've got another couple of days of that to get over the late night. It'll take another 2-3 days to get over the late night. You've got to think, is it really worth it? Do I really, really want to do that? You know, there's no gain without any pain. It's like, you know, you do one thing and you've got to work out whether you want to pay for it down the line.
Yeah, so it's a real kind of balance thing.
It is, it's a balance thing. And, you know, even if I do get a great night's sleep and I feel great, I get up, I do my exercises, but it doesn't mean that by my midday, 1 o'clock, I'm not going to start to feel tired and worn out. So, you know, take every day as it comes. What you see is not what you get. They say, you look so well, and you go, oh, sorry, Charlotte, absolute rubbish. And no, you look fine, therefore you feel fine. The thing about MS is a lot of the symptoms are hidden. The condition fluctuates from day to day. Because you said you could do something today doesn't mean you can do it tomorrow. There's got to be some flexibility. The same thing for appointments, or that you may have to drop out at the last minute because you don't feel up to it. Access to information is really important because sometimes it's difficult to know when you can access certain services. It's like, I can get dial-a-ride now, and it was suggested to me by, I think it was a GP surgery, and I would never have known that beforehand.
What's it like to be an ME sufferer?
It was the unpredictability of it, which is, which is really annoying, because you'd like to make arrangements. You'd like to say, well, I can get up one morning and I don't feel too bad today. Yeah, I think I will go and do something. But by the time you get up and you've got yourself ready, you find, no, I just can't. And it's very frustrating because you want to do it. It has affected my social life. I used to play table tennis. I used to play indoor tennis, and not really sort of vastly energetic games, but and it built up a social group through this, and I just realised that I would go and play. I would find the energy. I would feel I could go and do it, and it's not until you've done too much when you realise you never know how much too much is either. So, and it doesn't kick in until the next day. When you're given appointments and things like that, you don't know how you're going to feel on the day. This is why I don't book holidays. I don't book theatres. I can't go on day trips because when I reach that sort of like brick wall, which for me is mentally more than physical, it's mentally, it's sort of like sensory overload, they call it, and it's true. You could no more input. You can't take any more. You've got to stop. This business about graded exercise. I couldn't see any of this really getting to the root of my problem. I thought, it just doesn't seem like any of this could help me. I mean, graded exercise will, try and push you to do more and more, but you know what's going to happen if you do. So I think we learned, we learn how to pace ourselves, and we learn through experience what's going to be too much.
When my sister first became severely ill, I think a lot of her friends thought she was just being antisocial and didn't want to keep in touch with them. And this happened so much, and people say, oh, why doesn't we bring Wendy, and why doesn't she come to the theatre, and why doesn't she come on the coach outings, and all this sort of thing. So I sat down and I wrote a detailed list, and I've got the first one that I did here, and I listed all the symptoms, how bad they were, how her life had changed, how she got so fed up because she couldn't do anything, how unsympathetic the medical profession were, and the sort of treatment she received, and how often she'd been reduced to tears, how difficult it was for her to get benefits and to get it accepted, and again, how she'd been reduced to tears by the people in the benefits agency, how many people commit suicide. And I concluded by saying that I hoped this had made them understand that Wendy wanted to lead a normal life. She wanted to keep in touch with her friends. She wanted to go out and enjoy herself. But she was simply physically unable to do so. And I think this helped quite a lot. As my sister became worse, and our GP, after such a long time disbelieving her, became more supportive, he referred her to a clinic at Sutton Hospital. Now, the big advantage of this was that the two specialists came out to visit her for 6 visits. There was a nursing sister and an occupational therapist. Now, they tried 1 or 2 drugs which might have helped, but they didn't help Wendy. So they got back to what most of the ME clinics say, that she has to pace herself. In other words, she has a very, very limited amount of energy every day, so she has to not use up all that energy. So many health professionals don't accept it and don't believe it, so they're very unsympathetic. And you can imagine, if you felt dreadfully ill like that every day of your life, and the specialists you saw and the doctors you saw, a lot of them are really bullying and unkind and sort of telling you to get moving, how distressing this must be.
Yes, I found the social aspects of having CIDP difficult because having mobility and balance problems, actually didn't really want to be social in terms of standing up and talking to people, because it's the one thing one didn't want to do was to stand up. And I, being quite a sort of social person, certainly going out once or twice a week to social gatherings, rather ceased that activity because I found it embarrassing to want to sit down when everybody else was standing, and I think that rings true, especially true with people in wheelchairs. I remember meeting a stroke victim 20 years ago who was fully fit and well. He understood everything, but he couldn't get his words out of what he wanted to do. That led to his being extraordinarily frustrated. CID patients have similar problems in that we think we're quite fit. We can wish to do up our shirt buttons or write a letter or write somebody's name, and we find due to problems with our hands we actually can't pick something up, we drop it. I found problems in doing up shirts for about 4 years now, doing up ties. But the most important one, and what really did become an enormous friendly organisation, because I learned how to fit in, was actually forming the intravenous support group at the National Hospital. It took me 2 years to set up. I'm the secretary administrator with a clinical support nurse, run and endorsed on behalf of the 3 consultants in charge of the peripheral nerve team. And from what started up in 2007 as a very mini support group, I've now got over 60 members. Forming the support group has enabled the daycare centre to now produce a Rolls-Royce service for both the patients, the nurses and the consultants. There's a very fine line between GP and consultant. The consultant, depending on their particular discipline, is in charge of you when you're in their hospital, but the actual person who is in charge of your health is your GP, and very few people know that.
If you have mental, neurological illness or trauma, after the 360 degree, you're going to be turning either 45 degrees or 180 degrees, or with, like me, almost 360 degrees all around. And when you're turning, you're changing every aspect of your life in terms of how you think, how you view people, how you eat, how you look after yourself. I also had a mental health therapist, and that mental health therapist was probably the most important person out of all the therapists. Now the occupational therapist came and just saw, what do I need, how do I do my day-to-day work, So out of the 4, 3 were just what I would call functional, and only one was actually concerned with the mental, although the psychologist was. But what was interesting, out of the 4 services, only one actually focused, and even till today, I'm seeing, my last appointment's coming up, but even till today, that mental therapist has probably been the most important person. Not because they were telling me what to do, but because it was a means of actually discussing the process of change. At the end of the day, all neurological ailments need time. They need time, and there is a process of change and adjustment. And I think professionals need to recognise that and see where that change is, and maybe try and direct it to a better place if it's not going to a good place. What I would say is that the process of change is constant. Every day is a process of change, right? And living with this condition is that I think it unleashes a whole new way of living. Now it could be very small, a very small effect, or it could be very large. For me, it's changed my way of living in terms of how I earn my money now, my attitudes towards my work, how I do my work. I still work in the same professional area, but how I execute my work is now very different. And in fact, if anything, I'm probably working harder now than I did before.
It is frightening every day. And I first discovered it when I went to wash my face in the morning. You splash water and there was shocking pain in the face. So whenever I go to wash my face, first thing in the morning, I have to be very frightened and close my eyes and wash my face slowly like that, so that the shock doesn't come. It's a current, like electric current, you know. Yeah, so not very nice, pleasant. Not many people knowing about it makes his life very lonely. We suffer in loneliness and secluded from other people. I come to know, I find out from chemists that there are some other people in the area or everywhere in the world who are suffering from this, but we don't know each other. We don't know. What I think will help us is if we have a support group, you know. So if hospitals could do something to develop a place like that, that'd be very helpful to us. You see, I got my knowledge from the conferences, so maybe they don't know what I know.
Sure.
So maybe I know more than them. So I feel they're not listening. I think it's a GP's job really, like any other illnesses. But because they're not educated about this, they refer you to either the pain clinic or go and get operated by the big man in hospital. So we are left to make decisions on ourselves.